Hey YouTube. Oh, why does my mustache look like that? Okay. So, what we understand in modern science is that the universe began with a big bang explosion, and it created all things that we see in our reality. So, created the stars, all the galaxies, the subatomic particles, the planet, and then all life on the planet, the water, the trees, the animals, the rocks, and humans. So everything that is inside of us, like our thoughts and feelings and our intentions, is what that Big Bang created. You get it? So I think a lot of the times in with modern science we think that um, all it created was uh, like the physical world, and that our thoughts and feelings are really just like some biological trick designed to keep the species going. But there is there's nothing that's created that's with no intention or just useless garbage. Everything has a use. There's a reason why it's there. It serves some kind of a purpose. And I mean, the only way to really know that is to go within yourself, because that's where the same essence that created the Big Bang, that essence is inside of you. When you really put one and two together to create three, which is the spirit. So it's your thoughts, your feelings. When you kind of go within and find that space where your thoughts and your feelings meet each other, that's the spirit, the essence, the soul, the light, the inner star. That is what was already there, I believe, at least. Because, I mean, you are the Big Bang. You are something it created. And I mean, whether or not it's like an intention of it, I think all things have intentions. Just like I think all things are, to some extent, alive. Because nature does not see the rocks, the water, the stars as not being alive. There is no perception of whether or not it's alive. It's just existing. So you can either say that everything is alive or nothing is alive. But you wouldn't necessarily say that nothing is alive, because you know that you're alive. And just by that, you can kind of come to the understanding that all things must have some degree of life to it. Some kind of like sense of being alive, like a thing. I am something. I'm feeling something. I am. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just want to vibe with this thought. I was just having a thought. But it's cool to think about. There's no mistakes in nature. Everything has some kind of a purpose or a value to it. Maybe not even purpose or meaning, but a value to it. And this you can even take on a human level and a social level. Like every human has some kind of value to them. They offer something to society, to themselves, to existence. There's some kind of value that you bring to the table. And I mean, at the end of the day, all it really is just what are you all about? What are all the thoughts that consistently go through your head? And what is it that truly makes you alive? What is it that you're all about? And this is how you discover your own life's purpose. And me, I believe that my life's purpose is to talk about these things with people, to make YouTube videos, to post things on Instagram, to kind of get you in that wide spiritual feeling. And I mean, I know the word spiritual is kind of overused today, especially in the New Age community. It can mean a few different things, but the essence of it is just that wide feeling, that breath. Spirit means breath, spirare. It's like a Greek or Latin word. I think a Latin word, and it means breath. Not just breath like your little that breath, but that light that's like a breath when you get like a aha moment when you realize something. And that's why the spiritual tradition of Buddhism and Hinduism is dedicated to realization. Realization is a huge part of it because when you realize something in your mind, it brings that breath, that aha. And everything that I'm talking about now, about the universe creating all things, and it created you, you have a life, you're a being. So that means the universe is a being and alive. Um, when you kind of like think about that for a while, you get that breath, that spirit, that aha, that realization. So I think my purpose is to bring out that light in people. It can be through poetry, through making YouTube videos. Um, and just like the way, just my general energy when I carry out, when I go throughout my day. It's not to make myself seem so great or anything, because everybody's life has that breath to it, if they choose to follow it. And it's not always going to be like philosophy or spirituality. It can just be like you're maybe a cashier at like Wendy's or something like that, but the way you talk to people is very, very real, very authentic, very like felt and wide, very deep in thought. You trigger something that causes someone to pause and be like, that guy was something else. Like, yeah. And I mean, even if you're not so deep and you don't really do that, you still have some kind of value to your life. You offer something. I could talk about God and how there kind of is a God. I made a video about it. If you choose to believe in it, or I think it goes by many different names: God, the universal consciousness, the Brahma, the Buddha mind, um, Allah, Yahweh, um, the Creator, the Great Spirit. There's a million different names for it, but it's always just this one being that is a being and an entity, and it's kind of like that entity that's beyond all things and is ultimately the common ancestor of all things. Because I'm a being and I'm alive. I don't remember where I came from. Because I think even people that remember things from past lives and things like that, eventually they hit some kind of a wall, whether it's in the future, a future vision, or something in the past, like a past life memory or something like that. You eventually hit a wall where like you don't know anything beyond what you remember, beyond your earliest memory. So it just begs to ask the question, where do you come from? And ultimately, you don't know everything. So where was it going with this? Yeah, that I think there is something that is beyond what the human mind can comprehend, and it's a being, because everything is a being. I'm alive. I'm made of atoms and particles, and I come from the great apes, which came from reptiles and fish, and then um, the apes came from mammals, and then they came from reptiles, and then they came from fish, and then they came from uh, aquatic multicellular organisms, like microscopic ones, and then they came from single-celled microscopic organisms, and then they came from the primordial soup, which nature doesn't make the distinction between what's alive and what's not alive. It's just one form that's constantly changing and ever growing. So even though those chemicals to some extent have some degree of life to it, So you just go back far enough, and I think you come to find that there's just a being that is beyond like time and space that ultimately created all things. And you can work with this being, and you can kind of like talk to it by like thinking in your head or even speaking out loud. You might look a little crazy if you speak it, so you might want to just take some time to find a quiet space and just think it in your head when nobody's around, just so no one thinks you're crazy. um, so yeah, have a conversation with it and ask questions. And if you want like a response, I mean, there's a few different things you can do. Like you can pause and wait for a thought to arise that seems very inspiring or very feel good, very like bright. It makes sense. It leaves you with that feeling. Wait for a thought like that, and that's kind of like a message from God. Then you could also wait for a like a sign or a synchronicity, something in reality that kind of says something like meaningful. You could also kind of like do a visualization, like a role play. Pretend that you are God and that you're looking at this person's life, your life, and you see all the struggles, the past, the pleasures, and all that stuff. The common thoughts, the consistent thoughts you're having, and you just pretend that you're God with God's almighty wisdom of all things. You just tell that being yourself what to do, because you kind of, if you can kind of look at your life from like that perspective, you get an outside perspective of your life, not just your own perspective. And it's not like somebody else telling you something based on their perspective. It's on a completely different level, which to some extent it still is your perspective, but it's taking your own, how could I say it, like your own smaller perceptions out of the equation. So like something I was doing this today, something I got from God that I really want to bring up was that um, what I believe God wants me to do regarding the spirit attachments and my pains and my pleasures and my consistent thoughts and all that stuff, my past. What should I do? And the thing is that what I deeply believe that God, with his almighty power and almighty wisdom, God can do anything. There's nothing God can't do. But that doesn't mean that God will do anything just because you ask. Because something I get from God is that God doesn't want to interfere with anyone's free will, because it just makes sense to me that you're given this life so that you can live it. Like imagine if you created all beings, but you didn't let them choose their own choices in life. You just controlled everything they did. That's like a parent that controls their child's life, their entire life, like from birth to death. Like if you were to not live as long as your parent or whatever, but like imagine even when your child is an adult, you're still making decisions for them. It's like at some point you have to let them decide. And that's what I think God, the Father, wants for us, is to make our own choices in life and to face the consequences of our choices. And I think going to God is the greatest source of advice, because it also honors your own soul and perceptions. But so God won't interfere with your own free will, but God will work in your favor to make little things, to slowly over time introduce things into your life that'll bring about positive change and things like that. So what I believe is that what God wants for me to do is to continue with my spellcasting, and to just do the best that I can regarding having to deal with this like spirit oppression, possession, attachment. So I have like a spirit that's causing like voices and psychic attacks, hallucinations. It controls parts of my mind. It controls what I think and believe at times. Not all the time, but at times. So all God wants me to do is just simply do the best I can, and don't try to force anything that's just gonna stress me out. And then, because when I get stressed out, like I just give up on everything, and I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I lost hope. I get frustrated. The attacks get worse, and I'm left feeling like, fuck this. So if I can look at my own life from God's perspective, honoring all the things that I'm going through, I deeply believe God would say, just do the best you can. You know, like, if you're thinking something and the spirits are bothering you, bring the light of that thought stream somewhere else. And that's why I'm making this video, because I was just thinking about these things, and I was getting thought blocks, like I can't think. And then the psychic attacks, the hallucinations were getting worse. So, is there something I could do or think about or do to bring that light of interest, that enthusiasm about this stuff? Because I don't want to give that up. I want to keep thinking about it and bringing in those feelings. So then I had the thought, like a very clear thought. Talk about it on a YouTube video. Talk about it online somewhere. And that's why I'm making this video, because I like this light, this inner depth, and I want to bring it out. I want to feel satisfaction from it. So I know to just carry on with these videos and things like this. And there's other things I'm doing that's like me just doing the best that I can. Like, I'm eating healthier. I shop at Whole Foods a lot, so I picked up like beets, organic beets today, and I had beets with chicken for lunch, for dinner. And what else? I'm working out more often. I'm going for my 1 hour walks through the woods still. So yeah, I'm just trying to, and just chill, like just do the things that make me happy. Like, I've said in a bunch of my other videos, I really like Pokemon, like the old episodes specifically. But I was watching some of the new ones too, and they're cute. I like them. The thing I love about Pokemon is that it's so lighthearted. It's all about like following your dreams and living in, I want to say, like almost living with nature. Because if you're like my age, like 29 around, and you grew up watching the old episodes, you know that there was always like this nature preserve with all the wild Pokemon there. And there was always like Team Rocket trying to like destroy it or steal all the Pokemon. And then all the good people were like, we're going to defeat you, and then send them flying into the sky. The Pokemon are saved, the trees are fine, the forest burned down, but we can rebuild. And it's always like, you love nature, you love the wildlife. Obviously in our world we have animals, but in that world there's Pokemon, and they live with each other. The Pokemon help the people in society. Like, you see a Machoke like carrying like one of those construction not cylinders, I don't know what you call them, but you see them carrying it, and like they're building stuff. It's all about like living with nature and getting along with others and ultimately following your dreams. And it's so lighthearted. I keep saying that, but that's what I just love about it. It's very innocent, yet like there's a power to it, because there's a power in gentleness. But aside from that, I'll sum it up. So, you are the universe. Just think about what your body is made of, like particles and atoms. That all comes from the Big Bang. It's all being recycled through food, the other animals, the food we eat, animals and plants, the air we breathe, the water we drink. And it's all, if you just trace back in evolution, from what we understand with carbon dating, it all comes from one source. And when you just think about it, in common sense, it is all one thing. Like you call it the universe, existence. That's one thing. So you are part of something that is a whole bigger thing. You're alive. Existence is alive. That's God. You work with God. God honors your free will to make the right choices. So do the best you can and, just communicate with God and have some kind of spiritual practice. Do yoga, meditation, do spell casting, maybe get a psychic reading, read oracle cards, tarot, or even read the Bible or the Torah, read the Pali Canon, read the Bhagavad Gita, explore shamanism, get a soul retrieval done by shaman, go to a meditation group, go to there's so many things you can do. Like, you can look up online, get a Reiki healing. Yeah, just, oh, no, about Reiki, if you look up on Instagram, this is really cool. You can, or even on YouTube, you can look up free Reiki healings. So, like, someone on Instagram or YouTube will make a video where they're actually sending Reiki to the viewer of the video, and you can actually feel it. I do it not all the time, but I've done it before. I haven't done the Reiki before, but I've watched the videos, and I actually feel that peace, that, like, glow. I love it so much. I'm so grateful for those people that do that. And it always comes at, like, the time that I need it the most. So, yeah. Well, I think I summed it up. So, yeah, just follow that inner light and know that God is with you, and as long as you seek God and the universal consciousness, and you kind of understand that your free will is your free will and it's your responsibility, you're part of something so much greater, and ultimately you can, I want to say, you can, like, do whatever you want. Like, I mean, in the sense, like, you can follow your dreams and have them be realized. The way I see it in my life is I'm already living my dream. Because, like, I have disability money. I don't have to, like, do anything, like, and I mean, in a way, like, I don't have to have a 9 to 5, which is something that many people would rather not have. And I think mankind in the state of nature doesn't have a 9 to 5. It's just, you pick an apple off a tree, you hunt a deer, you're just living and doing what you need to do to get by. So I'm kind of living that life. And with my spells, I know that I'm going to have more opportunities arise. The more I submit myself to those good feelings, and the more gratitude and satisfaction really gets solidified to the core of my being, then good things are only going to follow. So just trust it and do the best you can. And that's what I want to end it with. Do the best you can. Be good to yourself. Peace.